council chambers. First item up would be the adoption of some previous minutes, the regular open minutes from September the 15th, 2014. Any council input into those minutes? Hearing none, they'll be adopted by consensus. Any business arising? No business arising. And moving into the introduction of late items and the adoption of the agenda, we will be moving business 1, fire hall alternate approval process, from there into the number 1 item on the adoption of the agenda. And also we'll be adding a report from WE Day from the Osias Elementary School. There is a recommended motion there to move the fire hall approval process, and that would be resolved that the above item be moved forward on the agenda and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Rhodes Ryan. Any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, we better vote, I guess. Okay, and contrary? Hearing none. That has been approved. There are no delegations today, no water matters. Moving into correspondence, there's a report from the Okanagan Basin Water Board regarding the September 11th, 2014 meeting highlights. Motion to receive. Rhodes Plant. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving into bylaws. Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw 1307 for adoption. This has been before council previously.
Pardon me, Mayor, if we could deal with the alternative approval report.
Well, after just having it moved it up. Thank you. Okay, so we will go to Corporate Service Director Jeanette Van Vienen for 2 reports on the alternate approval process. Thank you.
Thank you. So my first report is the report on the results of the alternate approval process. Council went to the alternate approval process for elector response on Osias Fire Hall Construction Loan Authorization Bylaw 1306-2014, which would allow the town to borrow upon the credit of the town of Osias a sum not exceeding $5,962,657 to construct a fire hall on Lot 1, Plan KAP 92266, property identification 028632109. The petition required 10% of the eligible electors of the town to sign opposing the bylaw in order for the assent to fail. The number of electors for the town is estimated to be 4,742, therefore 10% would be 474. The deadline date for alternate approval response forms to be received by the corporate officer was 4:30 p.m. on Friday, October the 3rd. Section 86(8) of the Community Charter reads as follows. After the deadline for an alternate approval process has passed, the corporate officer must determine and certify on the basis of the elector response forms received before that deadline whether elector approval in accordance with this section has been obtained. The following is the results of the determination of the elector response forms received. Total signatures received 1,068. Signatures, names and addresses unreadable 13. Invalid, which means 1 signature for 2 names, 1. Duplicate signatures, in other words, they signed twice, there was 12. Out of town boundaries or ineligible voters, 5. Initial only, unable to determine their identity, there were 11. And 1 person signing for 2 or more, in other words, there was the same signature for various people, there were 7. So the total signatures accepted were 1,019. This far surpasses the 474 for the petition to fail, and therefore I have determined and will be certifying that this petition failed to provide approval to Osias Fire Hall Construction Loan Authorization Bylaw 1306-2014. That's
Thank
report
you.
number 1. So then we go on to the next report. So council had gone to the alternate approval process for Osias Fire Hall Construction Loan Authorization Bylaw 1306-2014. We have now determined the results. There's now 3 options available to council. If an AAP process fails, which it did, Section 162(2)B of the Local Government Act states assent voting for a bylaw formerly referred to as a referendum must take place not more than 80 days after the deadline for receiving elector responses under the Section 86 or the alternate approval process of the community charter. Voting day for assent voting must be set for a Saturday, and therefore assent voting in this case for this bylaw must happen no later than December 20th. Since this is a general election year, staff have reviewed the timelines for assent voting, advertising requirements, etc., and should council agree at this meeting to go to assent voting on this bylaw on November 15th, there is sufficient time to complete the requirements. If council is in agreement to go to assent voting for bylaw 1306 on November 15th, they must set the question by resolution at this meeting in order for advertising for scrutineers to proceed on October 8th. A proposed question for council consideration is as follows. Are you in favor of the Town of Oseas adopting Oseas Fire Hall Construction Loan Authorization Bylaw 1306-2014 that will allow for the Town of Oseas to borrow a sum not exceeding $5,962,657 over a 30-year period in order to finance the construction of a fire hall at 74th Avenue on Lot 1, Plan KAP 92266, PID 028632109. That would be the question on the ballot. By considering this option, council can also consider that there would be no additional costs associated with assent voting at the general local election on November the 15th, with the exception of additional advertising costs, which are expected to be approximately $2,000 to $2,500. To hold assent voting on a separate date could cost up to $15,000, and a copy of a example budget is attached. Second option, council can direct that the chief election officer set a date no later than December 20th, 2014 for assent voting. This is not a recommended option, as December 20th is very close to Christmas, which is not an ideal time for voting to occur. Also, to have assent voting so close to general voting day is labor intensive for staff and will be costly. Option 3. This final option is for council to let the bylaw fail and make changes to the project significant enough that the Inspector of Municipalities will approve it as a new project. It is unknown as to what would be significant enough for the inspector to approve a new bylaw, but likely would have to show a significant reduction in the borrowing amount. The legislation is clear that if a bylaw fails at assent voting, a bylaw for the same purpose cannot be submitted for elector assent for at least 6 months from the last submission. However, the legislation is unclear as to whether there is a waiting period if it fails at AAP, or if council could proceed immediately with the new bylaw. Staff is still waiting for advice from the ministry in this regard, but it is anticipated it would be the same length of time unless minister approval is received. However, project changes and a new bylaw would not likely be available for council consideration until the new year, and therefore assent voting would not likely happen until next spring or later. Implications for community input on borrowing for a new fire hall. Organizational, depending on which option council decides on, will determine the amount of staff time required to prepare. Budget, dependent upon the option council decides. If assent voting takes place November 15th, only $2,000 to $2,500 for advertising would be added to the election process. If council decides to take the question to another date, the cost could reach up to $15,000. Significant dates. A decision must be made at the October 6th council meeting if option 1 is the preferred option, as time is of the essence, and that means that we have to have advertising in this week's newspaper. Options. Option 1, that staff be directed to proceed to assent voting to take place during the general local election on November 15th, 2014, with the following being the approved question for the ballot. Do you want me to read it again, or?
Please.
Okay. Are you in favor of the Town of Oseas adopting Fire Hall Construction Loan Authorization Bylaw number 1306-2014 that will allow for the Town of Oseas to borrow a sum not exceeding $5,962,657 over a 30-year period in order to finance the construction of a fire hall at 74th Avenue on Lot 1, Plan KAP 92266, PID 028632109, and that will be a yes or no response on the ballot. Or that staff be directed to present another date and timeline for assent voting for Bylaw 1306 to meet the 80-day time period as required under Section 162(2)B of the Local Government Act. Or that staff be directed to review the fire hall construction project with the goal to change the project and reduce the total borrowing by an amount greater than, and that's been left blank for council to input, and resubmit the bylaw for council readings in the new year. Staff recommends option 1 if council wishes to proceed with the fire hall construction as proposed. If council wishes to make changes to the fire hall construction project to significantly reduce the borrowing amount, then option 3 is recommended.
Thank you very much. That was a lengthy report. Council, do we need any more information? Is there a resolution coming forward? Councillor Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think I'll go right to the motion, and the motion that I would like would be the full wording in option number 1, including the wording that would be on the ballot.
Thank you. And seconder, Councillor Plant. Further discussion? I guess I have some that may help. I shared this information with the fire department committee, and the 3 options were out there. They looked at it, and they also were in favor of going to what is in front of us right now as option 1, moving this on to the November the 15th ballot as part of that. There's there's minor additional costs for the advertising, but that was their decision. So I'd like to share that with you. We have the vote; they don't have the vote, but that was the wishes of the fire department. So. Anything further on this, Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm glad to hear that the firefighters agree with that, and I'm not surprised. I think it makes eminently good sense to go ahead and do it at the earliest possible moment, and doing it in conjunction with the elections is a cost-saving measure. So I think that is good, and it will provide for voter assent at the ballot box, and I think that we're happy with the what's been proposed, and I think that it makes sense to do it in this time frame. I think the question is good as well. It would be it'll be up to us to make sure that that it's known that only 4 million of that will be on the shoulders of the town of Vesuvius taxpayers, as the other will be the responsibility of our partners. But I think this is going to be very clear.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Any other discussion? I guess other than when this went to the public, there was a large number of people that really didn't like the process, didn't like going to the AAP process. A lot of them voiced their concern that they wanted to go to a ballot. So here we are at the another chance of going and voting, and this will be a democratic process. And the only thing that I find a little bit off base is we've lost all the snowbirds will be away, and that's a large number by November the 15th, and that's unfortunate, but this is the way that it is. So we will be voting on that option 1, and that will take place on November the 15th. Anything further than that? All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Seeing as we have WE Day up there in that same category of late item, Mr. Remenko, are you prepared to report out on WE Day? Certainly. We can slot it later if you'd like. Or...
No, I can do it now if that's your wish. Yes, WE Day. This morning at the Committee of the Whole meeting, Council heard an excellent presentation from 2 students from the Vesuvius Elementary School that they had come to Council requesting support for their field trip or venture to Vancouver to attend WE Day, on the request being on the behalf of 18 participants. We Day is an annual youth empowerment event organized by the Free the Children charity. It is held in cities across Canada and the United States, and We Day motivates youth to take action on local and global issues. Since 2007, thousands of Canadian students have attended We Day events, which features speeches and performers from global leaders, social activists, and public figures. Each student group that attends is asked to make a commitment of one local and one global action throughout the year in order to create positive change in the world. And at the same time, when this group was here this morning, they not only were asking for support for this coming venture, but also provided council with the background and information on the activities that they carried out last year after gaining council support. So their request from council, although they did not identify a monetary amount, they did bring to the table that council last year provided $500. One of the other additional pieces of information that they provided was that the costs of busing are very, very high, is $650. So they asked if also it would be possible to use the community bus to attend this event. So I'm speculating that in terms of options available to council would be to provide the bus and a cash amount, and the cash amount would come out of our community development fund, or we'll find that amount of money, or just some funds, or just the bus. So that would be council's decision.
Okay. Council's wishes on that. Councillor Plante, please.
Yes, I would like to move that we do the $500 and the bus. Also wanted to look after the insurance that we kind of talked about as well, the 24-hour insurance that you may have to look into, so that we can cover that as well for the bus. I think that's what the bus is there for. So let's move that forward so we can get these kids out there and empower our community.
Absolutely. And seconded by Councillor Rhodes. Any further? Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This morning we had two young individuals from our school. Never did ask how young they were, but they were definitely pre-high school. And often when you act in your role as a counselor in our community, you try to inspire people about things, and you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you know, this morning to have these two incredibly well-spoken, very, very well-mannered individuals speaking to us as council, how nice was that to be inspired by them? You know, they just got their point across. They were so good. You just sat here with your mouth open listening to the two of them. So I'm very, very happy to support this motion.
Thank you. And just on that note, Councillor Rhodes leaned over and he said, well, if that's the future generation looking after this country, we're in good hands. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We also learned from the teacher sponsor that that there's been a study of the young people who attend the WE conferences and participate in the program, and that they do better in school. They tend to finish school and go on to higher education. They vote more often. They seem to be more engaged in their community, and so those are all very positive things that that are the result of this kind of exposure in this kind of program. So it seems a very worthy cause.
Anything further, Councillor Plante? You were...
Sure. Further to that, I mean, just again, if you get a chance to take a look at, they have that program, the We Day, on YouTube. You can see a big video of the kids, the people, the empowerment that they receive from all different types of famous people, people that have done great things within our world, not just within Canada. So if you get a chance, really take a look at it. It really does give a chance for kids to empower themselves, affect change, and especially come back here and impact our community in a positive way.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We did, going back to the old agenda, under correspondence, we did receive that? Not completely, okay. Thank you. Motion to receive the OBWB water report, roads, plant, all in favor, that is in receipt. Moving to bylaws, CAO Remanco on a permissive tax exemption bylaw for adoption. A report from CAO Remanco.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. This report is for council to renew their permissive tax exemption bylaw under section 224 of the community charter. Each year, council updates their permissive tax exemption bylaw, which is to be adopted no later than October 31st each year. This tax exemption bylaw would take effect for the 2015 tax year. Bylaw 1307-2014 received first 3 readings at the September 15th regular meeting of council. Notice of the 2015 permissive tax exemptions and estimated amounts were advertised in the September 24th and October 1st, 2014 issues of the Osoyoos Times, as well as posted on the town's website. In terms of implications, community continuation of providing permissive tax exemptions by updating and renewing the permissive tax exemption bylaw. Organizationally, no changes. Budget, no changes. Significant dates, bylaw must be adopted no later than October 31st, 2014, as per section 224 of the community charter. Bylaw needs to be received by the BC Assessment Authority no later than November 7th, 2014. Sustainability allows nonprofit organizations and places of public worship to continue to provide services to the town of Osoyoos community. In terms of options being provided, option 1, to adopt the permissive tax exemption bylaw 1307-2014. 2, to rescind third reading and further amend permissive tax exemption bylaw 1307-2014 and reread for the third time. And option 3 is to delay the adoption of the permissive tax exemption bylaw 1307-2014, and the recommendation by the administration is to adopt the bylaw.
Thank you. Council, please. Council Ryan.
Yes, I would so move that we adopt it.
Council Plant. Any input into this? It's been around 3 or 4 times now, so all in favor of adoption? Contrary, that has been approved. Going to bylaws number 2, the renumber of the zoning bylaw for Medical Marijuana Grow Operations. Again, this is one that got away from us on the numbering process. It's been before us a few times. Director of Planning and Development Services, Cunningham, please.
Good afternoon. The bylaw that Council gave first and second readings to on September 15, 2014 was wrongly numbered as zoning amendment bylaw number 185-92-14, whereas it should have been numbered as number 185-93-14. This report is intended to correct that mistake by taking the bylaw through the process again. On February 17, 2014, Council adopted zoning amendment bylaw number 185.89-13, regulating medical marijuana grow operations, which allowed Council to consider them as site-specific discretionary uses in the M1 General Industrial Zone. Unfortunately, the amendment was wrongly placed in the bylaw, and the attached amendment number bylaw 185.93-14 is intended to redress this problem. The MMGO amendment was inserted as Section 4 and Section 7 establishment of zones, which makes it difficult to find by members of the public. This placement also changed the subsequent number of unlawful use of property by zone and created inconsistencies with the enforcement provisions in the MTI bylaw. Instead, we propose to more appropriately locate the MMGO section in Section 4, General Regulations. Options. 1. Council rescinds the previous first and second readings of the zoning amendment bylaw wrongly numbered as 185.92-14 and reads zoning amendment bylaw number 185.93-14 for the first and second times and sets a public hearing date for October 20th, 2014. Second option, Council does not take any further action. Going through the implications, the only thing of note is that 3 zoning bylaw amendments are going to be packaged together and scheduled for the public hearing on October 20th. Staff recommends option number 1.
Thank you. And Council, please. Council Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, I will move option 1, which is to rescind the first and second readings of the zoning bylaw 1085-92-2014 and read the bylaw 1085-93 for first and second time and set the public meeting.
Thank you. And that seconder, Councillor Rhodes. I don't think there should be any discussion on this. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Going into the business. Number I, business. The item number 1 has been dealt with. Item number 2, Community Services Master Plan. A report from our Director of Community Service, Mr. Davies, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During budget discussions, a Community Services Master Plan was approved and was included in our 2014 business plan. Staff created a request for proposal and council awarded the project to Lees and Associates. For the past 6 months, we have been collaborating with Lees and Associates in developing the Community Services Master Plan. The team consisted of myself, the Director of Community Services, Aline Cunningham, our Director of Planning, Peter Beckett, a member of our Recreation Commission from Area A, Councillor Mike Plant, and Mr. Barry Romenko, CAO. The last plan was completed in 1997. This plan will guide the Community Services Department and the town for the next 10+ years for future planning. The proposed plan submitted by Lees and Associates was advantageous over other proposals, and that their process flowed well and the timeline they proposed met the expectations in the advertised RFP. They also had a sound team with a vast amount of experience, with one of the consultants residing in the Valley. The consultants worked with the committee to ensure that the general public had a number of opportunities to provide input, and they enlisted a number of processes that gave the public an opportunity to be heard. In order to do this, the consultants held a number of stakeholder meetings, 2 open houses, staff and council meetings, a telephone survey, and an online questionnaire. The results were favorable in terms of the amount of responses and also stakeholder representatives who provided solid information. The master plan was broken down into a number of categories. They included service delivery, indoor recreation facilities, desert park complex, parks and open spaces, trails, and programming. The information received from the public within these specific areas created the foundation of the report. The key findings for all areas were broken down to more detail with priority recommendations for 1 to 3 years short term, 4 to 7 years medium term, and 7+ years in the long term. The report also included current information from our OCP, our ISCP, the Resort Municipality Strategy, Tourism Development Plan, our current business plan, our bylaws, and our partnership agreements. The plan summarizes a number of issues that are broken down into categories and are systematically analyzed and with attached recommendations. And these would be for Council's consideration in the next 10+ years. The following is a summary of each category. In terms of service delivery, our department, which has initially gone through a number of changes in the last 2 years.
Mr. Davis, were
Yes.
you going to read that all?
That was my plan.
That was
yes.
your intention? Quite a bit.
But I don't have to. I can summarize it really, really quick.
If you could summarize maybe the categories and pick
Okay.
a little out.
In terms of service delivery, we had a number of categories. Obviously, with this, we were looking at doing a greater cost recovery, upwards of 50%, which means we would have to do something in terms of cost recovery for our fees and services. Indoor recreation facilities, obviously, we all know that we have 3. We do a good job as brought forward by the plan, but there has been some issues in terms of a high level of user satisfaction with Desert Park. In terms of the indoor facilities, one of the most requested was for an indoor pool, and there were some options for an indoor pool, which listed actually building an indoor pool, partnering with neighboring communities, a hotel or private development, or even improving Gyro Park to a lakeside facility or status quo. In terms of Desert Park, we had over the years a number of businesses and individuals trying to recapture some of the past history. The consultant recommends that any long-term commitment for equestrian use be supported by a comprehensive business plan, and that the land at Desert Park has some valuable redevelopment opportunities for future recreation. Parks and open spaces, We do have an initial number of parks that suit our initial population. We are a little bit lower in the tourist months and the summer months because we get an influx, but we still hold our own. And they recommended for some improvements to our basketball courts, our BMX track, dog park, and obviously to finish off what's at the splash park and gyro park improvements. Trails, to continue to increase our signage, to work with Destination Soyuz, Soyuz Indian Band and RDOS, and provide some trail maps and directional signage. In terms of our programming, to try and increase our programming by working with other groups, bringing in contractors to run programs. We initially increase our age of our programs by just because of our population and the amount of kids that we would get in other communities, but we try to expand the age range. We were looking at this program or this plan as a future for, or as a guide for future planning. So in terms of implications for the community, the public has provided sufficient input into the report, and following through on the planning with this document will show the importance that was given by the public. The document will assist in developing items for future plan and budget discussions in terms of organizational implications. The general planning budget that was put in place and approved was $55,000. The significant date, if we can get this implemented and used ASAP in our future planning for business for this year into next year, would be fantastic. And in terms of sustainability, there's a number of recommendations that will assist us in becoming more carbon neutral and will help us meet our environmental sustainability. The three options listed: number one, for council to receive this document and pass a motion to accept for future planning. The second option, for council to receive this document and direct staff to develop a bylaw to utilize as a planning tool during budget and business planning discussions. And option number three, for council not to accept this document at this time, and staff is recommending option number one.
First off, well, thank you very much. First off, what a great overview you did. That was that really captured everything that was on the page. That's for sure. So good work there. So looking at this option, motion to receive and use for future planning. I thought you were saying more than that in there as to direction, you know, as the budget process and.
So basically what we would do now, because of the implications or the recommendations as they're set up in the plan, okay, we would use that as a tool to bring forward in our business plan and use it
okay,
as such.
Okay.
If council feels that there are items in there that are considered short-term or long-term or mid-term, and they want to move those items forward, okay, or to get rid of items altogether, at least they're listed. Mm-hmm. The public has spoken, and they were brought forward as recommendations.
Okay, okay, that sounds great. Council, please. Councilor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would like to move that we do accept this report and the study and use it for future planning of our community services.
And that seconder, Councilor Plante, please. Any discussion? Sure, there must be some discussion here, Councilor.
Yes.
Councilor Ryan?
Well, not. I'll just make some comments. Actually, Gerald's report was an excellent one. The document itself is also excellent, and I believe it's on our website. And it certainly, I would recommend it for reading. It creates very interesting profiles of all of our services and the recreational facilities. It also critiques what is done and what it has been done, and gives input and so on from all the many discussions and the ways in which the public was consulted, and then provides some really good guidelines for the future, some options for us to follow. So I think you know, when you look at the amount that we paid for it, you know, sometimes you might say, "Ooh, that's a lot of money," but I think we got tremendous value for our money, and it's going to be a reference document, I think, for a number of years to come. So I look forward to it coming before council to its budget processes and to being implemented over the next few years in phases.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Any further discussion on that? Other than I really find it to be a worthwhile document too. It'll certainly give that guideline, and as you say, whether we move them around or juggle them or future councils, whatever, at least they've got a slot to start with, and they have to go somewhere. So I think that's fine work. Going to the recommended resolution to receive and to accept for future planning. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Under business 3, regular council meeting, a possible cancellation. Director of Corporate Service, Ms. Van Vienen, please.
Thank you. Section 127 of the Community Charter requires notice of schedule of regular council meetings to be published. This was done in December 2013 for the 2014 year. Any changes to the regular open council meeting schedule, including cancellation of meetings, must be advertised. This year, the second meeting in November is November 17. This is the Monday immediately following the general local election. Since corporate services staff will be busy with election preparation in the preceding week, it will be difficult to get a comprehensive agenda out. Typically, council has agreed to cancel the meeting immediately following the election. However, if council approves going to assent voting, which you have, you may wish to deal with the fire hall borrowing bylaw at the November 17th meeting. There are different scenarios depending upon the assent voting results, and should the chief election officer be unable to declare official results before the 2 p.m. meeting, council would need to defer dealing with the bylaw until a later date and possibly set a special open meeting date at that time. If the results of the assent voting are clear and the declaration of the results can be made, then council can deal with the next steps on the bylaw passed based on those results. Council should be aware that an application for judicial recount can be made no later than November 24th, and the last date to complete a judicial recount is November 28th. The first inaugural meeting of the new council is December 1st, 2014. Two options are being presented to council. Option 1, council give consideration to cancelling the November 17th regular open meeting and the required advertising and notifications be made. This will leave November 3rd as the last meeting for the present council unless a special meeting is held after that date and before the election. Option 2, that the regular open meeting not be cancelled, but unless another very urgent matter needs to be dealt with, that the one and only item of business be for council to deal with the fire hall loan authorization bylaw. Implications to the community: none. Organizationally, staff time will not be required for agenda preparation if this meeting is cancelled. Very limited staff time will be required to prepare an agenda for 1 or 2 items. Significant dates: a decision must be made no later than the October 20th meeting in order that advertising can be accomplished in the time period required. And the options being presented are that the regular open meeting of November 17th be cancelled, or number 2, that the regular open meeting of November 17th be cancelled and that a special open meeting be set for November 25th. The last day for application for judicial recount is November 24th. Or number 3, that the regular open meeting of November 17th continue as scheduled and that staff be directed to place only the fire hall loan authorization bylaw and any other urgent matter on the agenda. And number 4, that no change to the council meeting agenda schedule be made. And staff recommend option 3. Council would still be able to defer the bylaw to a special open meeting and set the date and time of that meeting during the regular open meeting of November 17th. So if there's a very close result in the assent voting, I may have to have a recount, and I wouldn't be able to do it by that 2 o'clock deadline. And I have up until 4 p.m. on the 4th day after the election to make that final declaration.
So that would be the 19th or business day?
19th. 19th. Calculating in my head. The 4th day after, including Sunday.
Okay, that's quite a bit. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Just from my own curiosity, if we did hold a meeting on November 17th, who would participate in that?
The sitting council.
Yeah.
This council.
Because we're not, the new council would not actually be sworn in. Yeah.
until the 1st.
Yeah, I know they struggled with this at the regional district as well because of those dates, and decided to cancel their meeting that was close to it because they weren't exactly sure who was supposed to sit there. So it's the inaugural meeting is actually the first one, correct?
Is the first one of the newly elected
of the new
council.
council.
That's correct.
Right.
That's December 1st.
I think because we're here and because the election just happened, I think we should look at having that one on the 17th. Mostly because we normally don't have that first one in January. I know I'm going another month out, but it's going to get pretty thin there for meetings. In the inaugural meeting, you don't normally do a lot of business. In fact, no business on that inaugural. It's mostly just a little bit of pomp and ceremony and the swearing in and anything that has to be done. So then, you know, because we do shut down between Christmas and New Year's, town hall, there's really no use having one in the first. I mean, there really isn't any use in having one in the first Monday in January because we don't, you know, staff hasn't done anything. So we're getting pretty thin for meetings. That's comment. Councillor Ryan.
Well, I think it makes sense to accept their staff recommendation. You know, this has been the responsibility of the current and previous council, and regardless of the outcome, I think some action will be needed, and it should be taken, you know, while council is still in office.
Okay.
So I would recommend, or I would move that we accept the staff recommendation that we have the meeting on that date, but have only the loan authorization bylaw and any other urgent matter on the agenda.
Okay. And the seconder for that, Councillor Plant. Any further dialogue? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Under business 4, RDOS license to use the Osuas Dog Pound. There's a couple of these. The first one is from the RDOS, again, Corporate Services. Ms. Van Vienen, please.
Thank you. At the January 20th, 2014 council meeting, council passed the following resolution in order to permit the RDOS to use the Osuas Pound. Motion 15/14, moved by Councillor Rose and seconded by Councillor Plant, and resolved that council approves entering into a 1-year animal impound agreement with the RDOS and directs administration to work with the RDOS to develop a long-term agreement, and that was carried. At the September 2nd, 2014 council meeting, council agreed to extend the license to use the Osuas Pound by the RDOS for an additional 1-year term to terminate December 31st, 2015, under the same terms and conditions as the 2014 agreement. Since this time, the RDOS has advised they may have other options available to them now with regard to pound services, and therefore only wish to enter into an agreement for 6 months. Dependent upon terms they may reach with another agency for pound services, they may come back to the town of Osuas asking for continuing pound use for Area A only, but that is unknown at this time. The agreement attached to this report for council review is for a 6-month term ending June 30th, 2015, with a license fee of $1,200 for the term and $10 for each cat and dog impounded. All other terms are the same as the license agreed to for 2014. And under implications for the community, none. Organizationally, monitoring of the agreement and invoicing for the usage. Budget, $1,200 revenue plus individual pound fees. Significant dates, the RDOS should be advised no later than September 30th, 2014 if council does not wish to renew the agreement. A little late, but and the options being presented are that council approve the license to use the Osuas Dog Pound from January 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2015, and that the signatories be authorized to sign the agreement, or that council does not wish to extend the license to use the Osuas Pound by the RDOS, and staff recommend option 1.
Thank you. They certainly seems to be a little one-sided here as they're going to cut it in half again if someone jumps up and says, oh, I got another one here 2 months early. Anyway, thank you, Councilor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move option number 1.
And that seconder, please, Councilor Plant. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And again, same dialogue, I'm sure, with the town of Oliver.
Hot commodity, that dog pound. Okay, so at the May 20th, 2014 regular open council meeting, council reviewed a request from the town of Oliver for use of the Osea's dog pound. Council passed the following resolution. Motion 203/14, moved by Councillor Ryan and seconded by Councillor McCordoff, and resolved that the town of Oliver be advised that there is a capacity concern at the town of Osea's dog pound that could cause issues if yet another local government required use of it and could potentially leave them without the service on short notice if maximum capacity is reached, and therefore council cannot agree to a rental lease agreement for the pound. However, if the Yard US does not renew its license to use at the end of 2014, council will revisit their request if they so wish, and that was carried. The town of Oliver is now going through the process of rezoning to allow for a pound facility to be located at their public works yard. This process is not expected to be completed until the end of October, and then the facility will need to be built. They are asking if they can have use of our pound until their facility is complete. Since spring summer is now over, which is the more of the peak times for animal impounds, it is not expected that this will have a major impact on our pound, and we should be able to accommodate. However, if the town of Oliver facility is not completed by next spring, we may need to revisit. It is proposed that we enter into an agreement with the town of Oliver for a 6-month period with terms similar to those with the RDOS, in which we charge $200 per month license fee and $10 for each dog or cat impounded, and only as long as both communities are using the same animal control officers. Implications to the community, none. Organizationally, preparation and monitoring of a license. Budget, revenue of $200 per month for up to 6 months. Significant dates, as soon as possible, as Oliver is now without a pound facility. Options, option 1, that council agree to enter into a license to use with the town of Oliver for use of the Osea's pound for up to 6 months, or 2, March 31st, 2015, for a license fee of $200 per month and an impound fee of $10 for each dog impounded, or 2, that council not enter into a license to use the Osea's pound with the town of Oliver, and staff recommend option 1.
Thank you. Council, please. Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. And seconder, Councillor Ryan. Any discussion with Councillor Rhodes, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only to say that quite happy to be a good neighbor to our residents north of us. I'm kind of glad to see that they are moving towards putting their own facility up there. But before we vote, I do have one question. Is there any compelling reason to not move forward with this? We haven't had any, too many animals or bad acting animals or people, or it's been a good thing so far?
It's now...
Not suggesting that there's people in there, but animals do have owners.
No, I've checked with the bylaw officer, and we don't have a large amount of animals in the pound at this time of year, so we should be good. It's usually the spring, summer. Spring for various reasons, summer because we have an influx of tourists that want to leave their dogs behind, but other than that, in the fall, winter, we usually have extra space, so we should be okay.
Anything further? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. License to use Gyro Beach. Again, Director of Corp Services, Ms. Van Bienen, please.
Thank you. The town has granted a license to use a portion of Gyro Beach for water sport activities for over 25 years. The current license to use expired September 30th, 2014, and staff is looking for council direction on whether to proceed with an RFP for use of this area for 2015. The area is shown on the map attached. It was originally used for parasailing and banana boat rides, and later was used for other water sport activities, including paddle boards. In the past couple of years, council had requested that the licenses be issued on a 1-year basis as the waterfront master plan was being created, and council was looking at improvements in this area. This is also the same site that Frank Zanfleet uses each year for the July 1st fireworks, and therefore the licensees were unable to use that area on that particular day. Considerable staff time is required to advertise and complete an RFP for this area for another year, and to continue the monitoring of it on a regular basis during the operational periods. Staff are seeking council direction on whether to proceed to RFP or to no longer offer this area for use by water sport businesses. Implications: community loss or continuation of a commercial water sport business in the Gyro Beach area. Organizationally, staff time to prepare an RFP and monitor the license if approved. Budget: the town has typically received approximately $3,000 per year for the use of this area. Significant dates: a decision should be made as soon as possible if council wishes to proceed to RFP, as a potential licensee will need to get their advertising in order for next year's season. And sustainability: usage of the park area beneficial to both residents and tourists. Options: option 1, that staff be directed to prepare an RFP for the area of Gyro Park to be used for water sport activities, and that the terms and conditions of the RFP remain as they have in the past, and a copy of the advertisement with those conditions is attached. Or 2, that the area of Gyro Beach formerly provided for water sport activities under a license to use no longer be available for this purpose, and that it remain a public use area. Staff recommend option 2.
Council, please. Councillor Ryan.
Mr. Mayor, I would be prepared to move the staff recommendation that we allow the beaches to remain public with no businesses attached to them.
Okay. And the seconder. Councillor Rhodes seconding. Discussion, please. Councillor Ryan.
We have we've been advised by staff in the past that the renting of the beach and so on was perhaps somewhat a little bit perhaps outside of our jurisdiction, or it wasn't necessarily the best thing, and that's why we did do it on short term. We also now have a plan, and we will be implementing that plan, and there's quite an exciting concept for the beach and for that area. So I think it would be interesting to see how it could be used without any commercial activity there. And we know that last year there was a lot of concern around clashes between commercial users, and so maybe it's good that we just have a little time out and let the public use it completely and exclusively.
Okay. Councillor Rhodes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I do have a couple of questions, and I'm wondering about the beach volleyball. That has no commercial aspect to it at all. That would not interrupt that in that area at all. In addition to that, we all know that we've had, commercial enterprises down there in the past, and would there be an opportunity for them at some other location around the lake, or was that the same process?
It would be the same process wherever as long as it's on town property, we would have to go through the RFP process.
Okay.
Just for council's information, the license to use at Cottonwood does go through next year as well, so that one is still in place for another year.
Okay. That was part of my question, so that would be another year there. And of course the financial aspect of it. We were getting, for both sites, we were getting $6,000, I think, or $5,000
in total. Yes.
So are giving up some revenue not to use, although it's not huge or anything, and it's certainly seemed to cause a lot of trouble. But we're probably going to go through that again anyway with Cottonwood. We're not getting away from any of this. So, Councillor Rhodes, please.
One other question. Yeah, I'm really conflicted with this. I see the value of the motion, and I understand that more people will be able to use that area for recreational purposes, probably more so than ever, but cutting out that commercial aspect of it, yeah, I hadn't quite realized that it was such a definitive thing, that it was an either or. I thought maybe they could just defer. The same people at Gyro Beach are the same ones at Cottonwood?
This year, yes.
Yeah. Have we had any dialogue with them about how this will impact them?
Not specifically, not directly, indirectly, but not directly.
Okay. Do we have a sense of what that would be?
If I could just speak to that, I think part of it is that looking at an existing operator and getting feedback from an existing operator is kind of prejudicial relative to the going forward, because what we're doing is we're going to an RFP, and or whether or not council wants to go to an RFP, not based on whether or not a business wants to come back, but whether or not we want to use that particular facility for greater public access or continue the commercial activity. So that's why we didn't go back to the existing operator, because we wanted to have a clear sense of how council wants to use that area of the beach.
I guess my input is there is a need for commercial use down there. So as soon as we get commercial use, we're going to keep going back and forth on this. We didn't have anything, then we did. Now we're going back to having, what we're saying now is no commercial activities, because as soon as we do, we're going to have to put a request for RFP out there. We've got all of Watermark and a high use beach and a lot of people, and I mean before we got into the stand-up paddlers, we had a parasailer up there for 20 years, and it had a license of use, commercial license of use, and that all went well. And now it seems like we're sort of chasing the tail of the dog, so to speak. Yes, please.
I guess the other consideration is that we've been going from year to year, and it's very difficult to try and get operators that will go from year to year as well. So I guess another option that should be considered is, does council want to address this particular commercial use, but look at a longer term opportunity, and that way we don't have to, and I'm not looking at the staff work as much as providing for a sense of comfort for an operator that comes in, that they know they have a business beyond 1 year, because that in itself probably limits the businesses that come forward. The other consideration is that, and I don't know where we're at in terms of the Gyro Park, that the discussions we had certainly with the charrette about a pier. I don't think we're 3 years, using 3 years as an example, I don't think we're there yet to have a pier developed in 3 years. We're only about $700,000 short. But I think the other option is to consider is whether or not we want to go to a longer term and try and provide some substance to that particular area.
Well, again, if we don't do something, then all of a sudden we get somebody comes in, which we always have every year, because the summer folks come in, they want instant action. They're going, we want to use this for a commercial enterprise. We're going, hold it, we got to advertise twice in the newspapers and go through a month-long process in which they start getting antsy. So I don't know that to say no to commercial use at Gyro Beach, I don't think we're there yet. But Councillor Plante-Ryan.
And I would have to agree with you on that, Mayor. We go back to a couple of different times on council here in the last 3 years where we, there was an aquatic park that we were, looking at. There was a commercial part of that. There was some other people that did come down with some great ideas for that area, and it is an attraction for tourists to be down there. We need to give them things to do, and the commercial aspect of it is why it is part of this. If we don't have those, what can we do to attract people to be down there and into that area other than to hang out on the beach? I just feel like if we say no to this, if we go with option 2, we're saying no to the friendly commercial business area that we want to be, and that is a key spot in this town.
Good comments. Councillor Ryan.
I think that Mr. Romenko's comment is a good one about the whether we need to step back and say, do we need to look for a longer period of time there? Because it was always a problem of always seemed to be a short-term thing. It was never early enough for some of the people who wanted to go there. But I think it would be interesting to see how there's been something there all the 6 years I've been on council, and it'd be interesting to see what it's like if we didn't have anything. It might just be give us a chance as well to look at a slightly longer term lease for some operator. I don't recall if our master plan talks about that, our community services. I don't think it did. Did it?
No, it didn't.
But, yeah, I don't think it did. But so I think I would still feel that it would be useful to see how the public would use it, and if it simply didn't have any commercial activity.
Okay, so that is what we have, Ms. Scott. Okay, to have no commercial use down there. Okay, any further dialogue? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's defeated. Next, please. Councillor Rhodes.
So I'd like to make a motion based on the wording in number 2, and I think the wording would be adequate.
1, you mean?
1.
Or pardon me, the opposite. Sorry, number 1. I apologize.
Okay. To prepare an RFP for the area of Gyro Park to be used for water sport activities, and that the terms and conditions. Okay.
For what length of term?
Well, part of that will be part of the RFP.
We need a term identified in the RFP, because that way they know what they're applying for. What the.
Okay. We can't leave it. Well, what if someone says, well, they want 2 years or 3 years or.
Well, we can say up to 3 years, or we can say up to 2 years, but you should have some kind of up to term.
To the mover, up to 3 years?
Yeah, I'd feel comfortable with that for 3 years.
Or 5?
I think 5? 3 would be good.
Okay. And seconder on that motion, Councillor Plant. Any further input into that, Councillor Rhodes?
I think one of the reasons that I would be supportive of that, and I have to repeat myself, I do see the value of having that as a public beach down there. I think it would be wonderful. But having said that, that activity that we had down there the last couple of years, I have had so many people comment on the positive aspect of that and how much it's really made their experience in our town so much better because of that. And it's a sport that's kind of developing quite a bit, and people are seeing the value of it. It just seems to have so many good positive things about it, and I'm not suggesting that they are going to be the successful people through the RFP process, but I certainly see the value of having that type of activity down there. Just so many people commented in such a positive way about it that I'd kind of hate to see that taken out of our community. So in the perfect world, I wish we had about 4 more kilometers of beach down there so we could do both, but we don't. We have to live with what we have. So.
Okay, Councillor Ryan.
Yes, the motion says water sport activities. The sample request for proposal talks about non-motorized water-based activities. Is the understanding that it would be non-motorized, or that it could be either?
Good pickup. Thank you.
Well, right now it's non-motorized, right? Yeah, but that, if we need to put that in the motion, I would accept that as being a part of
Continue
it,
the
yeah.
non-motorized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Under any notice of motion coming forward from council members? No notice of motion. Reports, general Sun Bowl Arena and payroll accounts, general and Sunbone cash requirements to October the 6th. In the general account, $548,753.12. In the Sun Bowl account, in the amount of $11,352.57. And payroll accounts for receipt only in the amount of $136,405.94. Any council input into those? They'll be adopted by consensus. Building permit report for the month of September. Again, pretty skinny month. Looks like $31,000, $32,000, sorry, and bringing the yearlies up to date for 2014, $2,745,000. To date for 2013, $3,091,000. Though I understand there has been about 4 building permits taken out for new residences. So that'll be nice to see some plywood on the horizon again. It's been a long time since we've seen something new and fresh like that. So hopefully that'll come in. Heading to committee reports. Any committee reports coming in? No committee reports. CAO report, Mr. Romanko.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Just a few of the activities that our staff have been involved in the last couple of weeks, starting in the Community Services Department, letting people know that there will be a pickleball tournament scheduled for Saturday, May 4th, which was last Saturday. I haven't got a report on that, so...
May and October.
Oh, I have... Okay, October 4th.
Oh, okay. So it was last Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. We still don't have a report on it.
I still don't have a report on it, yes. Okay, getting to some more stuff. We had a general staff training in terms of our Microsoft and Outlook and Word and Excel. It was partaken in by the community service staff and other staff members as well. Staff spoke with Steve Brown, owner of Peach City Runners, about including Soyuz as one of their 3 destination events, which includes Cultus Lake and Sylvan Lake. Programs officially started. Some new programs include the Steve Nash basketball, art for youth, and guitar lessons. Coming up events include DJ Youth Skate and Halloween Howl. And staff is working with the senior slow pitch group to make improvements to the West Bench ball diamond. In terms of corporate services, they've completed a second outstanding ICBC claim, are seeking quotes for seasonal window carpet cleaning for the town buildings, focused very much on election with distribution of candidate packages and receiving nomination documents, some work related to the AAP process. And certainly one of the things that's been keeping people busy here is that we've had another group of transients come into town, which has been caused some issues with bylaw over at the skateboard park and gyro bandshell. This combined at the same time when our bylaw is going down in hours in terms of the fall season. But they've been working very closely with the RCMP to deal with that issue, and unsightly properties continue to be a problem, but we're working on it. And just a message relative to Puncture Vine, which has become a part of our unsightly premise complaints, and asking people to look after that appropriately by pulling it at this time of the year and bagging it, as opposed to mowing it or cutting it and spreading it. In terms of public works, winter shutdowns are started. Future projects include some work on the front of the town hall to prepare for the new Desert Center Garden project, and they also will be working with the volunteer group on the west bench ball diamond project. Myself, I attended UBCM, looking at a meeting this week to talk about being part of a provincial program on a fast charger system for vehicles. They're bringing out a new program that makes this available to notable communities for free. So we want to get on that list. Also, the DO attended the Destination Australia Strategic Planning meeting and met with the Okanagan Regional Library staff and discussed the Sonora lease. And I'm waiting for some results out of that. And that would be my report for today.
Thank you. Going to councillor reports. Councillor Rhodes, please.
I'm going to pass again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say a few things, and one is that if you haven't noticed, there's a dedicated right turn lane on Highway 3 going down to Gyro Beach, and that's been something that people have wanted and we wanted, and it has been done. It's been painted. Also, there are plantings now on Fuji Court Slope and on the islands in the marina parking lot, and so in about 20 years people will be able to park in the shade in the parking lot, so that'll be nice. I just wanted to mention a couple of numbers, because there have been a lot of numbers in the paper in the last few weeks, and the two important numbers to know, one is 5.9 million and the other one is 4 million. And 5.9 is the amount that you will be asked to empower the town to borrow for a new fire hall, and 4 million is the amount that we will be responsible for as residents of the town. We've got two partners in this. We have the OIB and we have the Rural Fire Department, and so they are going to be paying their share as well. So those are the numbers you could keep in mind, 5.9 and 4. And that's my report.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Plante, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, we were just talking about, I got a little emotional for a second because we were talking about canceling meetings. And we talked about November 3rd, and I thought that was going to be my last day, but thank you for making it November 17th. So I am here to announce that I will not be seeking re-election. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I can't believe I'm going to actually kind of get emotional about this, because it has been a really great 3 years here. When we first moved here, my family and I, we were looking for a balanced lifestyle, and then I also was coming from Edmonton. I wanted to get involved in the community. How could I get involved in a place that I love? And so I got on different committees at the time, and whether that was even going and playing in the bowling league or playing hockey or curling. Those were things that I thought I could get involved in and meet some great people, and I did. And then I got this real passion for wanting to see us move in a very positive, progressive way, and I still to this day, and just because I did announce that, I want to let people know that I'm here to be an advocate still for progression and growth in this community, and I'm here to to be part of momentum and movements to that. So although I'm closing the door for 1 minute, I'm not going to lock the door on politics. I believe I'm young enough to go and explore a couple of things that, again, in a positive way, in a very exciting way. My business has been expanding, and it's because of the town of Soyce and the support that I've been able to start a business. I moved to this town with no work from Alberta, and I created a job in 2010 for myself, flew to Vegas, bought a bus, and started a tour company. And today I can say that, with great success and support from this community, I've got into a partnership with a company called Land Sea Tours out of Vancouver, and we're calling ourselves Land Sea Okanagan, and right now we're at 7 buses, and to tell you that was going to happen in just this last 4 years has been unbelievable. But what that's done is I need to really concentrate, and I want that to really be a positive business that grows here in Osoyoos, but also in the South Okanagan. So, and another one is just again my family, and at this point, you know, there are some personal things that have happened over the last little while that I will I'll be looking after, and like I say, it's not the close of the door, but I just want to say a big thank you to all those who elected me into office at that time 3 years ago, and I want to thank council. I learned a ton about how it all works in behind the scenes. Questions that I may have had answered. If you're even thinking about wanting to be in office, and you really want to know about your town, this is the way to do it. So I hope there's somebody out there, you know, in my demographic who has a family that wants to see progression for the kids in our community, and I hope that they bring their election papers in and get a chance to experience this. So again, thank you to administration, thank you to my council members, thank you to the mayor. There's been some times where this can get really frustrating, and again, to be able to sit in here with people, debate the issues. I have a real deep respect for everyone that's in this building for the time that they've put in, and I wish them all the luck in the world. And again, I will be in here, maybe on the other side, talking about different movements and where I'd like to see the town of Osoyoos still go. I'll still be in here. So thank you again, and good luck to our next council. Thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Councillor Plant, and thanks for your 3 years of great service. And you're young enough to come back and sit right here, so you've got a long road in front of you. I'd like to say, you know, that Mike really picked up and represented the youth and the children of the town, and that would be covering such things as autism. You did such a great job there bringing that forward, and of course the splash park. And while you certainly weren't the only one on the splash park, and there was that major Rotary Club behind you, you were the point person, and you took that forward. So congratulations for that. And you can always put that, you go, you know, I had a lot to do with that, and you sure did. So thank you very much, and we won't get too emotional now. We'll save that for later on in November.
Thank you.
So that's the end of the reports, other than my report. And I was at UBCM and council, because it's still expensive. This was at Whistler. This wasn't in Vancouver. Vancouver is twice what Whistler is. It still was expensive. Council chose not to go because of those costs. I went, and we didn't really have a lot on our agenda to be talking to ministers about, and I go to the Resort Municipality Initiative, which is very key to this town. This is $280,000 that this town gets that other towns don't. So it's very important that you're staying close to the funders. The Highway 3 Coalition, we went there, and it was really unique. We just thanked the minister for what they'd done on the highway, and keep up the little chunks that we're getting. And this would be the whole Princeton Highway, so we're keeping that as our focal point, which is interesting, because the Highway 3 Coalition is right from the Alberta border to Hope, BC. And we've, you know, with a little bit of, everyone realizes that it is the whole Princeton first. So we got that one new one at the top of Whipsaw Hill there. Great section of passing lanes, 4 lanes, and there's another one already coming. And we said that we'll take the small chunks coming often, and maybe we can really get rid of some of those real bad areas in there. And of course, you know, the ministry picks the low-hanging fruit first, so they're doing some of those obvious and easier ones. Mayor's Caucus was really interesting. This is twice a year, mayors only. Lots of changes there, lots of disgruntled communities with with funding, and really starting to grumble a lot about what they're getting from the provincial government, and fighting for a little more recognition and a little more input. So that was long. It really was long. In the end, CAO Romanco came down because we started talking to, ended up talking and dealing with 4 ministers down there, and CAO Romanco was down there sort of backing me up, because they don't pay attention to your schedule. They just tell you when you can meet with them, and you can't be over there 1 minute and 3 minutes later be over here dealing with someone else. So we did a little bit of a double team, and got through that well. A little bit closer to home, I'm doing a lot of there's a lot of strategic planning going on. This weekend, this Thursday night and Friday, I'm going through to some strategic planning for SIDIT, Southern Interior Development Initiative Trust. It's got $50 million to loan out. I'm on the board of directors there, and we're going to go look at some strategic plans for the upcoming year. And we're actually trying to shift how we're presenting this to the public, and get more money out of the investment accounts and onto the street where it can do some good for people. Again, closer to town, looking at the slope of the marina there. They did get some plants in, and it's looking pretty neat. And today, lunchtime, they were dumping rock over the bank. Great loads of great big rock, and it's going to do that whole slope. It's not going to be vegetative. It's going to be just a rock slope. It's too steep to really have people up there looking at weed whackers and keeping it green and all that. So it will be a rock slope, but it's real pretty around there, and the trees that are in the islands and that, they're working very well. Had lunch with Mary Ellen Height. She's the executive director of Community Futures, down talking about what they can do for small business. Again, they have money. If people are looking for money, there's certainly, if they have money and good ideas, SIDIT there. We're so high risk that we basically do take parts of company as capital. We're in as shareholders. A lot of them don't have enough money to have a basic credit rating. So it really works well that we can get this money out onto the street, and it's about jobs. SIDIT is about jobs, and they have a lot of grant money there. That minimum is 50% funding. They need you to have 50, and they'll give you 50. But it's about jobs. That's what you're doing. If you're creating jobs in a community, they'll certainly come and join in and help. And I think that's Mr. Romanco.
Just one point. All your discussion on the slopes just twigged, I think, an important. Last week we opened up the tenders on the Gyro Beach development. We had six tenders come in, so that's being in the mill relative to processing. So we couldn't have them prepared for this meeting, but we may ask council to have a special meeting in the next week, not this week, but early next week, so that we can pick the successful tender and then start moving on the Gyro Beach redevelopment here this fall, and into the late fall, and probably finished in spring, so that we can have a brand new beach come this spring.
And on that note, when I was talking about the trucks and the rock, that's a local contractor that's doing it. I don't know whether he subbed it out or not, but we got a local contractor placing the rock, and the rock is coming from South Okanagan Concrete Services. So we got local rock and local folks. So we've been trying to get that for a long time. Anyway, that's the end of my report. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Roads. Plant. All in favor? We're adjourned. Good afternoon, folks. It's another great Okanagan sunny fall day. Let's get at it. 3:25, we can still get the lawn cut.